three. Horton back to the end zone.
48-yard play. Guess who? Body up the middle, making another move to the outside. 15, 10, end zone again.
Keeps it. Nice move by Brown. He's got space. He's got 6. 35-yard touchdown for Byron Brown. A record-setting night for the South Florida quarterback.
Down so far, a little bit of a high snap. Genty right up the middle. Genty has room. Ashton Genty, give him 6.
Second and long. Lagar tries to pin it in. Rose, it does. Rose stays up. The Suns offense 4-3 wheels. Incredible effort for Rose.
The G5 Hive. All G5, all the time.
How can we get more people interested? Here we are, deep diving into the G5 college football landscapes. We've been growing like crazy with followers on X, YouTube subscribers. Speaking of which, if you are watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're watching us on X, please give a follow and like and retweet. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, please rate and review. What does the Swarm need to know? What are our news and notes?
So, yeah, it's been a long time since we've gone live. I don't know. Last time was probably like March, April. I don't know, somewhere around there. So a lot's happened. A lot's happened since then.
And capture it all right here. Just capture it all.
Well, we didn't go back that far. But I did try to capture some of the big stuff that's happened more recently in the last few weeks. We'll start off at UNLV. The quarterback situation there with it's still a battle between Hajj Malik Williams and Matt Saluka. Hajj Malik Williams is the quarterback transfer coming over from Campbell. He was there for the spring. You know, he got reps with the team in spring practice. Matt Saluka is the transfer from Holy Cross. He was not there in the spring. He did not arrive until the summer. So most of his reps have come in and during fall camp. And you know, a lot of folks thought that, you know, this was just Matt Saluka's job, and that's not the case. It's definitely a really tight battle between Saluka and Hajj Malik Williams. And in fact, information just released today that Hajj Malik Williams is it's got the edge. You know, I read some things. Might have been like a week or two ago now, but it's in fall camp on Saluka, and it kind of said like what Saluka does is he reads his first read. His first read ain't there. That guy's not open. He takes off running. And so that kind of, I don't know, for me personally, that kind of like told me, well, maybe he's not going to be the guy. Didn't come in until the fall. And maybe that's just because he wasn't as familiar with the offense. I don't really know. I just remember seeing that comment from a beat reporter. But nonetheless, it's a tight battle here between Hajj Malik Williams and Matt Saluka. What do you think, Luke?
I think the edge goes to Hajj Malik Williams. When we did our Worker Bee series, it was kind of alluded to that like he kind of performed maybe better than they thought in the spring and started winning over some guys there in the locker room. And kind of once you win over a locker room and you're playing well, it's kind of hard to go against the locker room. Even though like maybe it makes sense to do, like, I don't know, maybe you're a 5-star quarterback and you go to a G5 school and it makes sense. And then maybe you don't get it. You know, I don't know of any of those circumstances off the top of my head, but you know, it sounds like Hajj Malik Williams, I think might get that start.
Yeah, I think if I had to give the nod, I think he is. And you know, and it could be a situation where there could be a short leash if they're both really competent guys. Maybe there'll be a short leash, but Hajj Malik Williams definitely has the edge right now. Cameron, thanks, man. Thanks for subscribing. Hope we can bring you all the G5 college information that you're after. And if there's anything you want to see or that we don't talk about, just let us know for future shows, man. All right. On to Hawaii. And Hawaii plays week 0, but back in June, star receiver Stephen McBride was arrested on June 21st for a domestic abuse situation. He was originally charged with a felony that was later dropped to a misdemeanor. At that time, he was suspended indefinitely from the team. He was later reinstated to the team on August 13th. And even though he's back with the team and practicing, they revealed when he got reinstated, they revealed that he's got an eligibility issue, and they're working upon that eligibility issue. The only thing they've really said about it is that it's not related to this other incident, and you know, no idea if he's going to gain eligibility back if he resolves this issue or when that's going to happen. And if that does happen, is he going to be suspended for a few games because of the abuse incident? Like none of those details have come out. The only really thing to add is their week 0 depth chart came out today, just a couple hours ago, and McBride is nowhere on that depth chart, which shouldn't surprise anyone, right? Because they told you when he was reinstated that he has an eligibility issue and he has to get that resolved first. And there's been no updates on McBride since then. So yeah, Stephen McBride out. So it's going to be interesting to see, and we'll talk about this in our week 0 preview, kind of see who gets that start in his place.
And I'm just working under the operation and belief that we will not see Stephen McBride this year. And if we do, I mean, great. Obviously, the Rainbow Warriors want him back. He was great for this team last year. We saw why am I blanking on the other kid that was a freshman last year? Yeah, Ashlock. You saw him break onto the scene last year. Obviously, Hawaii is better with Stephen McBride, but obviously we just got to see how things go. But I would work under the operations that we probably just won't see Stephen McBride this year.
All right, staying in the Mountain West and going over to San Jose State, that quarterback room is really a mess, man. It's at the end of spring, it was a 2-man race between Walker Eggett and Emmett Brown. Emmett Brown, a transfer from Washington State, and then in the fall, Xavier Ward joined that club, and it's now a 3-man race. Xavier Ward's made several stops across a couple different teams. I believe he was most recently also at Washington State. He never really did anything for any of his previous colleges, and again, he joined in the fall, so he's kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit. But the fact that Xavier Ward has come in and made this a 3-man race just tells me like it's probably not a great situation, right? Because both Walker Eggett, Emmett Brown were there in the spring. They had all spring, all summer to kind of get down this Craig Stutzman spread and shred offense, and the fact that someone comes in the fall and like is in a legit race to win the job, that just makes, and considering Ward, we've never really seen Ward do much to this point, so it doesn't make me feel great about him. It just makes me feel not so great about the entire quarterback room as a whole. The fact that he was able to come in and kind of force a 3-man battle here.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot to add to San Jose State. It'll be just year 1 under a new staff, a lot of change, and I don't expect a whole bunch of wins coming out of San Jose State, at least year 1.
All right. Once again, sticking with that Mountain West, Nevada names Brendan Lewis the starter at quarterback for week 1 versus SMU. Not a huge surprise. Brendan Lewis will he was the starter last year. So even though there is a new coaching staff, Chuba Purdy is still, from my understanding, recovering from an injury, and so he's kind of been on the shelf a little bit. And so, Brendan Lewis is going to get that start week 0 versus SMU, in what is now going to be a P5 versus G5 matchup with SMU being in the ACC.
Yeah, I don't think it's really going to matter week 1. I mean, we'll get to our previews, but I think I like SMU in week 0.
All right, a lot of Mountain West news here, folks. True freshman Danny O'Neal is named the starter at quarterback for San Diego State in week 1. I had not shared this with anyone in my sphere of influence other than Luke. I told Luke early in the spring that Danny O'Neal is probably going to win this job, just reading the tea leaves, and the fact that he's a true freshman, and here he is, like being talked about in the same breath as Florida State transfer AJ Duffy. Now in the fall, they became more of a three-person race between Duffy, O'Neal, and Javiance Tupiata Johnson. But it was just announced yesterday that Danny O'Neal won that job, and I don't know. It kind of sounded like AJ Duffy just he never separated from them.
Yeah.
Trying to read the tea leaves, and the fact
Well,
that he
even
couldn't separate says a lot.
well, even I'm sure we'll have a short that releases, somewhat soon in the next, couple days. But even their beat reporter had mentioned of like it's not an indictment on that quarterback group, but O'Neal just was that much better, and he kind of sang his praises. So if you were paying attention to the G5 Hive Worker Bee series, I mean, I think the beat reporter did mention Duffy as the breakout, but like he spoke very very highly of Danny O'Neal.
Yeah, you should. If you get a chance, you definitely go do that, bud. San Diego State with Sean Lewis at the helm should certainly make for an exciting season there in San Diego. I'm a little bit jealous. I wish I could go see him myself. All right. Again, staying with the Mountain West, Wyoming running back Harrison Whaley suffered a knee injury in fall camp. He recently had surgery. They referred to it as a scope on his left knee, and surgery went well. Early reports indicated he could be back for an early season return. And then after the surgery, Coach Savell said it went well, and he is optimistic about Whaley's return this season. DJ Jones would be the main beneficiary here, as he's a transfer from North Carolina. He was a running back at North Carolina. Last year, they moved him over to the defense at Wyoming. He came there because he wants to play running back. So he's going to be the main beneficiary there. DeWine McNeely is still recovering from his own knee injury, which was an ACL tear in 2023. So DJ Jones looks to be the man for the Cowboys, at least in the early part of the season. Again, injury news in college football, it's very scarce. Just kind of reading between the lines, my guess is he had some kind of meniscus issue. Because that would normally be like what you would do, kind of getting cleaned up,
Yeah,
have the
that gives
scope
you like
done.
about 4 to 6, and it kind of matches with that kind of coach speech
It,
of
it,
like, oh, an early return. So it's like, okay, that's early in the season. Things were as good as they could have been. Like, hey, we went in there and we, maybe we just trimmed it up. We didn't have to do a lot more. Because you never know what happens. It's just like opening the walls in your house when you're like, oh, we're gonna do this, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we just opened up, uh, this what is it? I want to say box of worms. That is not correct. We open up the the can of worms. Um, that's kind of what it seemed like. Kind of go in like, hey, everything went as good as planned. So my guess is, yeah, like you said, the meniscus. I think maybe just a trim up. So I'm looking at that right around beginning of October time frame, and we did our research, and he was the number one guy. There are some reports about scrimmages and who's run with the ones and twos, and DJ Jones was running with the ones at point in the scrimmage. But there was no doubt about it that Harrison Whaley was the number one back going into the season. So DJ Jones, like you said, will be the main beneficiary. But I would, based off of reading between the tea leaves and making sure that that Whaley was that number one. It sounds like Whaley will get that job back, assuming DJ Jones just doesn't blow it out of the waters.
yeah, and like you said, Whaley, prior to the injury, regardless of what you may have seen in terms of who was running with the two ones or twos at the time of the injury, Harrison Whaley was the number one prior to this injury. He may have just been running with the twos to get DJ Jones some look with the ones that particular day or whatever. But yeah, he was the man prior to this knee injury. And the one thing just about a meniscus injury is, and I'm speaking from my own personal experience. I've torn my meniscus twice, and the recovery time really is going to be dictated by, was it like a cleaning up where they kind of remove some stuff, or was it a repair? And if it's just kind of a cleaning up, that's like 4 to 6 weeks. If it's a actual repair, that's going to be a little bit longer because it takes longer for that repair to heal. So if we do hear some news, just kind of keep that in mind. If we find out, hey, they repaired his meniscus, well, then we should expect a little bit longer.
And I don't think we're gonna hear that.
I
I think we're gonna look at.
I don't think we will, but you never know.
I don't think we are. But I'm looking at that time frame. Like if we're at the end of September and he's still not, out there, I would expect him to be out there either way, practicing wise. But if we're in that like end of September, beginning of October, and he hasn't played in the game yet, I'm going to go under the assumption that it was more of a repair, and we might not. Maybe we get a red shirt, medical red shirt there for Whaley, depending on how the season's going.
All right, moving over to Utah State out of the Mountain West, wide receiver Micah Davis has transferred to Ole Miss. You might say, well, how is that possible? Well, Utah State dismissed head coach Blake Anderson not too long ago, and because they dismissed their coach, that means the transfer portal window opened up. It's a 30-day window, and Micah Davis elected to take that opportunity, and he's off to Ole Miss. My guess is he got some money. He got a bag, so to speak, and he decided to go to Ole Miss. I'm not sure he's going to crack the starting rotation at receiver. I certainly expect to see him back there returning punts and kicks, though, right? I think that's where he's going to kind of make his mark, so to speak, for that Ole Miss team. And Ole Miss certainly has a great shot at making that playoff. So, hopefully at the end of the day, it'll all be worth it for Micah Davis. No one else really of note took advantage of that 30-day window. And I think it might be closed now, or it closes like in the next day or two. So, but we don't really expect anything else in terms of, big name players transferring out of Utah State. All right, moving over to the Sun Belt and Troy, they have officially named Goose Crowder, Will Crowder, nicknamed Goose, as their starting quarterback here in 2024. And if you listen to our Worker Bee series, you would have already known that well before the news came out. When we interviewed Josh Boutwell there, he pretty much told us, hey, they might say it's a job, it's a competition, but it's Goose Crowder. It's 100% Goose Crowder. And I'm excited.
Yeah,
to
you
see
would have known.
Goose
You would have known
can
that June 12th release date, June 12th. You would have already known this.
Yeah, the one cool thing we got out of the announcement was that we got a cool graphic, right? We got a cool. I don't know if you saw it, Luke, but it was really cool, like Top Gun goose goose graphic. So that was one cool thing we got out of it. But yeah, again, our Worker Bee series, man, we really kind of hit every name we could for you guys and try to uncover this information before it's quote made official. This one kind of really surprised me. And this one you would not have learned from our Worker Bee series because it's not what any of us thought would happen. But Devin Cargman has been named the starter at Kent State. And that was a bit of a surprise. I think all of us kind of expected it to be touchdown Tommy Ulatowski. That's even who we, when we interviewed the student reporter back in, it would have been, I guess, May or so, maybe early April. He was really pushing touchdown Tommy pretty hard. How he had looked really good in the spring, and so my only assumption is Devin Cargman must have hit it hard in the summer, and he came out firing in fall camp, and he made him make a change there just to start him. When Cargman has started, he hasn't looked good. So hopefully he's taken those lessons and will be much improved for the Golden Flashes.
Nothing much more to add there.
This one I just saw recently. Former Oklahoma State running back Jaden Nixon transferred to Western Michigan. I personally think that's a depth move, right? Because if you watched our Worker Bee series, it's pretty much, hey, we got Jalen Buckley, Zahir Abdul Salam, and then after that, man, I don't know what we got. They were, matter of fact, he even said, even with Salam still there, he said if Buckley goes down, we're in trouble. And so Jaden Nixon is someone that's going to be able to, come over from the Power Five. Looked okay at times there at Oklahoma State, and he's going to give them some depth there at running back, which I think is just even better news, right, for Jalen Buckley, because they don't have to, maybe worry so much about limiting his touches because they know they got some quality depth behind them.
Absolutely. Yeah, depth piece, it's Buckley. Jaden Nixon, being at Oklahoma State, used to running behind a workhorse back. So, yeah, depth piece.
Former Houston running back, and actually he was USC before he was at Houston. Brandon Campbell has transferred to UMass. UMass lost Karan Adams-Lynch and then Greg DeRozier's in the spring, I think in the middle of spring practice. Those are their top two backs. And then they had a lot of injuries, right? Jalen John was injured in the spring. Cookie Desiderio got most of the run there in the spring. And so Brandon Campbell's going to come there and, he's certainly going to add some depth. And my guess is, add some more competition to that running back room, something it sounded like that they needed when we interviewed Mike Maynard there at Temple. I'm sorry, at UMass. And so, yeah, interested to see kind of what Brandon Campbell can do there for the UMass Minutemen.
I'm not probably going to have a lot to add here going forward, Justice. So,
alrighty. Big news out of the Conference USA and for Florida International. They recently announced that their rapper / recording artist Pitbull, aka Mr. 305, bought the naming rights to the stadium. It's a 5-year deal for $6 million. The school gets $1.2 million per year. Kudos to Florida International, man. That's a huge deal for them. Helps bring some notoriety, brings in some money. Hopefully will help them with some NIL stuff. That's a major win for the Golden Panthers down there in Miami. So excited to kind of see what that deal can kind of do for them and how that can help recruiting and impact their NIL collectives there. The Tulane quarterback competition, again, another bit of a shocker. It's now a 3-man race between Ty Thompson, Kai Horton, and Darian Mensah. Apparently, Mensah has had a really, really good fall camp, and the other two guys have not done so much. And that one, again, that's a shocker because I think most folks assumed it would be Ty Thompson. And if it wasn't Ty Thompson, well, they had Kai Horton. Kai Horton looked good in times in relief of Michael Pratt. So, man, we saw that news. I don't know, was it yesterday when we talked to Gary? And he was sharing that with us. And that was that, or maybe it was this morning, actually. That was a bit of a shock.
Yeah. Yep. And based off of what I'm seeing, like you say, Justice, reading between the tea leaves, I kind of like Darian to maybe get the start here because Ty Thompson, Kai Horton, they haven't pulled away. And Ty Thompson coming in from Oregon, he was kind of assumed to be that starter, had foot surgery early in the winter, I believe, or right after fall. And he was going to be the starter, it looked like. But Mensah, I kind of like the drumbeat I am hearing around him.
All right, staying in the AAC, Jake Garcia was named the starting quarterback for the East Carolina Pirates this week. I would say that's a mild surprise, just because there were concerns about the offensive line. Jake Garcia comes over most recently from Missouri. Formerly, he was Miami. They also brought in Caton Hauser from Michigan State, and Caton Hauser is probably the more mobile of the two options. And so I think that the prevailing thought was that, hey, if there's offensive line concerns, then maybe Hauser kind of gets the nod because he's a more mobile option. And so maybe this is a good thing for East Carolina, right? That maybe this shows that, hey, we think the offensive line is going to be good. That's going to hold up, and let's roll out with Jake Garcia, man. He gives us the best chance to win with his arm, and so this could be a good thing here for East Carolina.
Yep, and I can't wait for this last piece of news. Break it to us.
So going back to the Mountain West, and Luke kind of teased this a whole lot earlier, but in a I don't know. I mean, it's not like a super shocker, but I think it's a shock. It's a shock to general college football fans, and that is Maddox Madsen was named the starting quarterback at Boise State. He got the nod over former 5-star recruit and some places #1 overall recruit Malachi Nelson, who had transferred there from USC. I think folks said it was a battle all the time, the entire time, but I don't think anyone really believed them, right? And I think this news definitely taken. It was a little bit of a surprise.
Yep, and we interviewed Ron Counts there at Boise State. We did our interview April 19th. That released April 29th. And he pretty much alluded to, like, it's going to be hard to take Maddox, this job away from Maddox. And like you said, people said it, but people didn't want to believe it. And here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Just I don't know, like what a mighty just a big drop in terms of the perception of Malachi Nelson, right? He was like the #1 overall recruit, top quarterback, going to USC, learning from Lincoln Riley, and now he's at Boise State and he's not even the starter. Just goes to show that, hey, everybody has misses. Like I said, all the recruiting services had Malachi as a top level recruit, and Maddox Madsen, I don't even know, was like a 3-star maybe. I'm not even sure, but he definitely wasn't any higher than a 3-star. It's an inexact science, and everybody wins and everybody loses at some point in their career as far as that kind of stuff goes.
We appreciate the support that we got over here in the offseason. 2024 is coming on. Come back and join us next week as we discuss what happened in week 0. And we look forward to a full slate of G5 games for week 1 in 2024 season. And as always, bring you up to date on all the latest news and the happenings in the world of the G5 college football. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you're watching us on X, please give us a follow, a like, a retweet. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, please subscribe. Leave those 5-star ratings and review. Thank you all for your support. Until the next time, we are the G5 Hive.